morning. A lot of people look forward to Thursdays at 8 when we get to check in with the one, the only Sam Amick from The Athletic joining us this morning. Sam, good morning from, are you still in OKC?
I am. Good morning
Nice.
from OKC. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. We are close and personal on the video. I don't need to see myself this intimately in the early morning here. But no, we're
Unfortunately,
good.
Sam, we're in this format because we've been told this is best for our social media engagement.
I think the fans would disagree, but I hear you.
They want more Sam. So you just stayed out. You went to game 7, right? And then did you stay there through game 1?
Yeah. I've had a lot of OKC time. I'm ready
Is
to.
that good?
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's
a ringing endorsement for OKC.
It's a small. I mean, I'm always a sucker for walkable NBA cities that are simple, like LA, for example. We all know it has great spots, and if you get out to the beach, it can be fantastic. So LA has good stuff, but driving around is a pain in the backside. So logistics are tough. OKC is the opposite. You can walk everywhere. There's some fun spots and decent restaurants and stuff, but it's a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it's good. Tonight should be fun. I mean, it's good luck topping what happened in the Big Apple last night.
Yeah.
But no, we're good.
Yeah, well, we got a lot to cover. Maybe we'll just start because you've been there for a couple days, and there's a couple of different talking points there. We'll go back we'll relive Game 7, which now feels like 100 years ago, but an odd way that game was developing because I thought, oh my goodness, is OKC in trouble? Are they really gonna lose Game 7 on their home floor? And from a game that was still very, very close, then became just completely one-sided. You know what the atmosphere was like. Just what was that like to see that play out that way, and just how Denver kind of just fizzled out?
Yeah, I mean, OKC, I don't really, and I haven't tried to come up with comparisons, but I don't remember a team in recent history that has the ability to overwhelm as quickly as they do. Like, even if you like the 73 win Warriors, and other teams in the Kevin Durant Warriors era, they did it differently. I don't really know exactly how to pin down the difference, but there is a speed and honestly, not to be hyperbolic, but like a violence to the way it's the Thunder defense. And so they start turning you over and they're so deep. And I mean, the other night, it's Case and Wallace, which is not the usual suspect, played a big part in it. But it was interesting because you had Julius Randle looking like Karl Malone, in the first half and just going crazy. And you're thinking, okay, I think Minnesota's better positioned to fight these guys than Denver. And then, like you said, all of a sudden it was like, oh, never mind, same story, So it's impressive, and it's kind of fun to watch because they have just enough. They still have the inexperience. They still have the inconsistency. So there's like an uncertainty with this OKC group where it's kind of all or nothing, and more often than not, they will find a way to eventually dominate. But they're going to scuffle at times along the way too.
Yeah, it's funny that you said I actually used that same comp about the run ability that they have. I did compare them to the Warriors of that run where they were in the finals 4 straight years, and a Warrior run wasn't, 10-2 or 14. It was like 24-2, and a 2-point game is now over. But they would do that a lot with, Clay, Steph, Clay, 3. I mean, it was like a bunch of threes, and it was like the game's over. You're right, Sam. It's if they turn you over, you're cooked. And what they did to Denver, what they did to Minnesota in those 2 games in a row, it's like 3 quick steals and violent steals and aggressive defense, and they're gone and they're out with the basketball. And that happens so fast. Probably seeing it in real time was probably kind of eye-popping for you.
Yeah, it is. And between now, I covered them 2 games in the second round, and then 3 total once you got to Game 7. So I'm 4 games in the past 2 weeks, and they're not a team that I saw in person that much during the regular season. And so not only seeing it up close is different, because the media seating here is actually pretty good. It's among the best in the league, and so that actually adds to the viewing experience. Where you're like in the last series, for example. Remember when Joker? I think this was Game 7 when he got the tech for kind of leveling SGA when he
Yeah.
came over to kind of save Aaron Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aaron Gordon, it was just like this, pack of hyenas that was on him, and he's, it was Dort and whoever else, and it was just like you could see with Gordon and Joker how frustrated they were, and I think one thing that happens and that I'm seeing consistently is it does remind me of the old, Jerry Sloan mentality about defense when he would tell his players that, hey, if we foul them, 300 times, they can't call 300 fouls.
Right.
And it's like that similar approach. The Rockets do the same thing. And I think there's a correlation because by the time you get to the second half, it's almost a human factor for the officials too. Like the whistle just kind of disappears for a couple minutes and all they need is to get away with a little more violence and then they're on their way.
So you've seen one game in this series. Tonight is game 2. Minnesota might have thought that same rule of thumb. Like, look, we can foul a bunch and they're not going to call them all. Well, they kind of did early on. They were in the bonus early. Rudy Gobert has 2 fouls within a minute. But all that, like Randall was awesome. Edwards was pretty good in the first half. They had a lead. It felt like it should have been larger. And even to the midpoint of the third, they're still up 2. And then they get blown out. I thought there were some elements there that Minnesota showed they can maybe even win the series or certainly make this a longer series. But by the end, OKC wins easily. Now that you've seen one game, it doesn't dictate the whole thing. But what would you expect tonight? What do you expect as this kind of goes forward?
I don't really know because I haven't been around. I mean, I've seen Minnesota. I haven't, I think they're deeper than Denver. I think I thought they were better equipped to, like I said, to put up a fight. The Randall thing, in the first half had me thinking that he was going to be able to be fairly dominant. He's had such a good playoff run, and their bigs had nothing for him. Alex Caruso didn't seem to bother him. But then, again, because of the depth, it was like then Lou Dort came in. Well, Lou's even bigger and stronger than Alex and, and certainly Chet Holmgren. And so Lou was bothering him. So now I don't know what to think because if Julius is going to be inconsistent, that's a major problem. So that's one thing. And then Ant, I was talking to our Timberwolves beat writer last night from our place, John Krasinski, and he was talking about how Ant he's a student of the game. He breaks down a ton of film, but he has a habit of like he has to learn a series. He can't just do the homework and then pass the test in game 1 most of the time. That he has to learn the hard way, and sometimes that does lead to slow starts because he even said after the game and got fined $50,000 for him. He said, I only took 13 effing shots. So, he lost. I know it's not a boxing match, but he lost the Superstar Showdown in the first game by, a large margin to Shai Gilgeous. So we'll see. I mean, he's got to be more aggressive too.
You're there in OKC where yesterday SGA named the MVP. That didn't surprise a lot. I mean, it's a good debate, whether it's him, whether it's Joker. I know you've talked about Giannis a lot in the year he had. He finished 3rd. What was the mood out there? What's the thought behind SGA winning his first? Not sure if he'll get another, but that's pretty significant accomplishment for their season, for his year. Everybody feeling pretty good about him deserving that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I voted for him. I don't think, that last round when you had the top 2 MVP candidates facing off, you kind of thought you were going to get, more moments that would make you unofficially say, yeah, it was Shai or, oh, it should have been Joker. And that didn't really pan out. They both had great games. They both had bad games. He's obviously a bit of a, divisive topic online and among the fans when it comes to him getting to the line as much as he does and the way he does it. I don't find it to be as egregious as like James Harden back in the day, but he certainly, he's got a knack for getting in line, and it's driving the T-Wolves and their people crazy. But MVP wise, well deserved. Not only best record in the league, but far and away best defense, and he's a big part of that. He's one of the many elite defenders they have. And then, it sounds like sacrilege, but on the offensive end, when you really break down his numbers, this season it was like legitimately like peak Michael Jordan type of stuff in terms of production and efficiency and the way he gets to his spots. So, I think he deserved it.
It's hard to put ourselves back in the beginning time, I guess, of James Harden when the fouls started to accumulate and when people kind of turned on him. Do you think this will happen for SG? It's happening a little bit, like you said. I mean, obviously, if you're a Thunder fan, you want every call for him, but T-Wolves are frustrated. Other fan bases are frustrated. People are throwing that foul merchant term out there. Do you think it will officially turn on him at some point?
It feels like we're there. It feels like we're there. I mean, I even wrote the other night that when you have the great Doris Burke 4 minutes into the broadcast referencing the foul merchant, I mean, that from a pop culture standpoint, not that, I almost had the thought, and Doris is amazing, I love her, that like you wonder if she knows the kind of sports culture influence that she wields on that platform. Like that was kind of a big moment to me when it comes to the conversation around him. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think we're there. I don't want to overvaluate or emphasize what's on social media, because I don't know what percentage of people we're hearing from. But when I tweeted out my column about SGA yesterday, the only comments I got back on social media were like one guy actually made it, basically it was like, this guy cannot be the face of the league. Like the fans have something to say about it. And we do not approve, basically, was the messaging. So that's part of it. And then he's an interesting watch. I mean, I find his, IQ very interesting, and his style and the shifting of gears. He's not as explosive and as electric as an Edwards. So I think the fans probably feel like there's less entertainment value with his style.
Talk with Sam Amick from The Athletic, obviously covered to you courtesy of Jiffy Lube. Well, you kind of said it early on, Sam. You saw a pretty entertaining game one. It got out of hand, but you don't know what to expect tonight. But last night, game one in the East, I mean, instant classic. It's a memorable game forever for many, many reasons. Would love to know your reaction to people in Oklahoma City, whoever you watched the game with, what you saw last night. Could you believe it?
No, it was fun to watch. So just to paint the picture for you, few of us went to there's a little restaurant bar next to one of the hotels over here. So we're sitting outside, they got TVs out there, a fairly small crowd of people. And we were talking about how, if the Pacers hadn't already come back from 20 plus points against Cleveland, I would have kind of stopped focusing as much on the game when they were up big against the Knicks, just because you're being social and you kind of get trained to be like, all right, I don't need to watch anymore. The game's a wrap. But because it's Indiana, I did, kind of stay locked in and watch. And sure enough, it's just like, it's 14, it's 11, it's 9. Oh my God, it's happening again. Neesmith, I mean, that was one of the all-time heat checks in the history of basketball. And it was, the last part certainly, but my God, for the whole game, he was 8 of 9 from 3. So that was incredible. Haliburton, not to, irk the locals. I'm sure it's a little tough to watch the old Kings player do his thing. I mean, that he fires that 3, and thank God again, from a viewing standpoint, it bounces. And I don't know why, there was something about the trajectory where all of us, normally it's like, oh, you missed it, Knicks win. Like nobody had that reaction. Like it just bounced, and then it's like, suspense, everybody's quiet, and that puppy falls, and he gives the choke sign, and then you're looking at it like, my God, he did the choke sign and he got to go to overtime. So it was almost a bad look for Tyrese, but it's crazy. I mean, now of course you just wonder what the domino effect is going to be
Right.
on the Knicks. It's certainly feels like more than one game. At the same time, they dominated the action for most of game one. So they've shown that they can control the Pacers. You know, you just have to not stop playing basketball in the last 3 minutes, which is kind of, you know, it's what's been happening with these Pacers is teams take their foot off the gas and they're right there.
You know, Sam, you've done the anonymous player poll in the past and asked different categories. And, you know, you knew Tyrese when he was here, and I think he was one of the most liked Kings. Even there was kind of a draw to him when he was traded and how emotional he was, shocked, didn't want to leave. And to now he's kind of turned into that wrestling heel. He's enjoyed that. The choke sign was, I mean, it was a classic move, but, you know, he's going to be public enemy number one in New York. Not that I think that bothers him. But I've seen, you know, Dame and Brooks and lots of other people get agitated by him. What has he thought? What is his image like amongst players? Or I mean, everybody knows he's good. That's not but like what they think of him around the league.
Well, I think you're getting at, and we had this discussion while we watched the game. You're getting at the heart of, you know, the player poll you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously was, you know, kind of infamously voted most overrated.
Right.
But and you know, there's a couple things like we, you know, when we publish it, we're transparent about the number of votes. And some people have accurately pointed out that it's like, okay, he did win the award, but it was 14% of the vote when there were 90 players who voted. So, you know, you're talking about, you know, roughly 10 players in the league who decided he's most overrated. But you also, that award, not to get too in the weeds about that award, if you go back and look at who's won it in previous years, what I've decided and taken away is that it's not necessarily about overrated. It's literally about like disliked.
Mm-hmm.
So Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green are, you know, two other winners. There's a through line there where they just bother a lot of their contemporaries. And with Tyrese, I think it's, you know, the trash talk is part of it. He does talk a lot. It's also talk from somebody who, you know, again, this is not a boxing match, but it's a tough game. And he's a guy who doesn't look like a tough guy. You know, he's skinnier. He's you know, not a, you know, he's not a strong defensive player. So I don't know. But he obviously irks folks, but he's a hell of a ball player, and you're seeing him grow because he's had a lot of moments in these past couple of years where it seemed like some of the moments were actually too big for him, where he wouldn't be aggressive and try to score in big games. And but man, he does, you know, pretty quickly here. He's been stacking up very memorable moments, and that was the top of the list.
Yeah, and their run through here, what they've done from dismissing the Bucks pretty easily to the Cavs to now having a 1-0 lead. And I saw the stat last night where you might in a postseason get a game that they've had where you are, I think it was 7 down or more with a minute to go. You might steal one of those sometimes. Maybe it takes you 2 or 3 postseasons to have that happen. Sam, they've done it 3 times this postseason.
Yeah.
I mean, are they becoming they're obviously good, but are they becoming a team like, wow, maybe this is kind of a team of destiny type thing?
It does feel that way. It's crazy. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but yes, and it's that personality trait of like, you know, it's if you take your eye off the ball for a couple minutes in one of these games, like your lead's going to go bye-bye. And then, you know, I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a Pacers team that better reflected their actual mascot. You know what I mean? Like the Pacer mentality that they are a zoom speed racer team that, you know, that is swarming you on the defensive end too. But I mean, they're full court pressure from the jump. You know, obviously their pace is through the roof. But yes, it feels, I mean, but the Knicks have had moments of destiny kind of vibes in this run as well, which I think is what makes this run or this series a lot of fun. Is I'd be shocked if New York, I mean, I had Knicks in 7, and I'm not sure that I'm ready to change my pick just because in game 1.
Yeah, I saw your picks. You had Knicks 7, Thunder 7, and then Thunder and 7. And you said
Everybody
that
said it.
it's hard to pick 3 game 7s, but I mean, I hear what you're saying here, and kind of on that thought, Sam, with the 4 that we have left, and I think about you as someone that's done this a long time, and maybe if we take you back a few years when you're covering Warriors, Cavs, 4 straight years versus this year where we're going to have the 7th straight year of a different champion. Do you have a preference? Do you think this is good for the league to have more of this parity versus we can pencil in Cavs Warriors again?
So I like it right now. It's fun because it's honestly a lot of fun to have new fan bases because like the excitement is just through the roof. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't been around Indiana really at all, so I can't have a vibe. And I'm sure their fans are electric today, but to see, I mean, the Knicks fan base is just absurd in a good way, but like
Yeah.
mostly in a good way. But like that's a lot of fun. The Minnesota crowd is pretty rabid, and this OKC group. I mean, this arena is maybe the loudest in the NBA. I mean, they call it Loud City. It's extremely loud and a good fan base. So I like it for now. What I'm wondering is just the way they built the CBA, and we've talked about that with the second apron, and it's shortened the runways when it comes to like you successfully build a roster, you have a title contending team, and you're not going to be able to have it for that long. Now, that I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that a couple of years down the road. Like the Thunder are kind of an outlier. They are built really, really well to possibly do this for quite some time. But like the Wolves of last year, if I had my druthers, I would rather have seen could they evolve and grow one more year. But they kind of had to do what they did because of the CBA, and it's worked out well with Julius Randle. But the constant, churn of rosters is like the Celtics are the best example right now. Like it feels too quick. Like that the league is going to say goodbye to that iteration of the Celtics. Like even without Tatum's injury, like they were, and are expected to have to move at least one major contract. That feels too quick. So I guess that's my non-answer. I don't know. It's fun right now, but I wonder how we're going to feel in 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's some charm, but if next year the Final Four is Orlando, Detroit, Houston, and Memphis, cool. But where did that Thunder run go? Where did the T-Wolves run go? The Knicks, was that quick in and out? I see what you're saying. And I think right now, I know the league will brag about having all these different champions, but I wonder if at some point it hurts the league, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because free agency is kind of unofficially dead. Everybody who might be on the move is getting traded ahead of time and signing extensions, and so the way the business is done is just much different than it used to be. And it's just you're making trades a lot of times now. Maybe 70% based on business purposes and 30% on basketball, just because you need to fill out a roster.
Yeah. Well, that just means if this cycle keeps happening, at some point, Sam, it'll be the Kings' turn, right? You with me? Maybe? Anybody?
I know you couldn't even put the Kings in there for next year. You had 4
I
teams.
didn't even use that example, huh?
Thick. I mean, you might as well put Charlotte above them, Jason. What are you doing?
Oh, wow. That's too real. I guess we don't really have a lot of Kings news with the exception of since we last talked. It is official. Bobby Jackson's back. I know we've talked sometimes about, hey, if they hire someone, who else would have hired them? Well, Bobby's at least, he's paid his dues. He's been around a little bit, not only in this organization, Minnesota. He's been with Philly. I'm glad he's back. He's such a great guy. But, boy, the Kings are kind of going all in on that early 2000s group. But we'll see if this pays off for him.
I was just waiting for the Keon Ellis hire, and the Lawrence Funderburk.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy for. No, Bobby's, like you said, it should always be highlighted that Bobby went outside of the family, so to speak, to go, kind of elevate his coaching craft. I give him credit for that, and happy for him that he'll be back around.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Sam, we appreciate you taking the time this morning from OKC. Enjoy the game tonight. Do you wear earplugs in there? Do you need them tonight?
I should, but I don't. It feels kind of, sacrilege. Maybe there are moments I got the old Bose headphones might go on.
Okay.
But it's a fun environment. It's not, sometimes it's, too much piped in noise and you roll your eyes a little bit at the artificial component. Like, this is mostly just a bunch of Okies screaming at the top of their lungs. So it's a pretty good time.
Well, enjoy it. We look forward to your work from The Athletic. As always, Sam, thank you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jay. Be good, brother.
All right, thank you. That's the great Sam Amick, brought to you by Jiffy Lube every Thursday, 8 o'clock. Sam Amick joins us here talking NBA hoops. All right, still to come. Normally we'd have Who's Hot, Who's Not.